Here goes our second edition of Day Drinking with Alfonso and Vanessa. So welcome you guys to Day Drinking with Alfonso and Vanessa, and we are going to explore some other tools that help relationships, and that tool is the enneagram. We always talk about the enneagram when we are talking about either people, relationships, especially if it's intimate relationships. How do people get along together? What is their dynamic like? And so one of the things as we get into the Enneagram today, we're just going to give the quick synopsis. We're not doing like a big scientific research project of the Enneagram. We're just going to give a quick synopsis of the Enneagram. How has the Enneagram helped us in our relationship, babe?
But I'm going to back up a little bit. So because I know people have watched this episode and they went on and Googled Enneagram test, which is cool. But when people take the Enneagram test, the problem is, and I want to make sure I say this so people know this before they even take it and then adapt to whatever the results are. When you take the test, you have to take it from a place of truth. You can't take it like whatever sounds good or feels good or what you want to be like or what you're aspiring to be like. It's got to be who you are right now. And so if you take it where you are right now, it's going to tell you what your shadow side, like I like to call it, is, what your weaknesses per se. It's going to tell you which weaknesses that you have to, well, don't have to, but that you need to start working towards the opposite tendencies of, so that you can evolve, like we talked on the last episode. So if you take the test, and let's just give an example. If you take the test and you're not true to yourself because it doesn't feel good to say, yeah, I do that, or here's the example. In situations where people need help, and I'm super making this up, do you tend to help people or do you tend to look out for yourself? Don't lie and say you tend to help people, because that is fake AF. And if you do that, it's going to skew your results. If you skew your results, it's not going to help the Enneagram result and the type that you get. It's not going to help you in your life. It's not going to help you with your career, your relationships, with fitness, with health, because you won't know how you're hardwired. You'll just work off the number it gave you, and you'll walk around talking about I'm a 7 when you're really a 3, and then you're going to start studying on the 7 and what 7s can do to improve, but you're not actually even a 7. And I've had about 2 or 3 people take the Enneagram test and say, these results aren't right. And I'm like, yep, they're not right. But in the back of my head, I'm thinking that's because you didn't answer authentically. And it takes a lot of self-awareness to do that.
What about if they want to help people, but they've never stopped?
So if you...
They said, I seen somebody on the side of the freeway, but I was rushing to get to work. And every time it seems like that I could have stopped to help somebody, I was in the rush and I had priorities.
Okay, so that's a good question. And no one's got to see your test answers. It's for you, right? So if you are rushing and you didn't stop, that's not who you are. It's not who you are, and you're going to get skewed results. One of the things I would do is, if you have like a significant other or someone who knows you, have them, when you get stuck on a question or you feel like you may not be totally honest, ask them, what do you think? Right? Like, I have a very extrovert personality, right? And so if a question came up and I was not wanting to answer truthfully because the right answer or the answer that aligned more with me didn't look too good, I could ask you, hey babe, what do you think? Like, what am I really like? Right? I don't have to do that because I have a lot of self-awareness and I know what I'm really like. Like, you know me, I'm always talking about my downfalls and, I'm all over the place. And like, I know that about myself. So if it said, are you organized or are you scattered? Oh, heck yeah, I'm scattered. Heck yeah. But then there's areas that I've evolved in, knowing that I tend to be scattered, and I've worked really hard by either using tools like lists or, the cell phones these days have tasks, apps, and all this stuff. So the truth is, yep, scattered. But since the test showed me this is part of the characteristic of my personality, I was able to improve it. If I lied and said, oh no, I'm organized, then it wouldn't have helped me in any area of life. So you have to tell the truth.
So one of the things about the Enneagram is it does show the shadow side of that temperament.
Oh, you said shadow side.
Or that personality. So it does show the shadow side. It does show the negative tendencies, but it also shows the positive tendencies. And so some people don't want to claim to be that personality type because of the negative tendencies. And that may be for someone that is not as evolved enough under that personality, or it's if that person hasn't, if they're still growing in that area, then they may have a lot of the negative tendencies of that personality and not so much of the positive tendencies. So what I want to do is I want to do a quick dive in. We'll table that question of how it helped our relationship for the middle of the podcast, but I want to dive in because everybody's wondering what the Enneagram is, why I use this versus other personality tests and all the other stuff, because we study many different personality tests, but the reason why to use this one is because it's more effective when it helps relate to other people. So it's more effective in relationships. That's what I noticed because I've studied most of the personality tests out there. We've studied tons of personality tests. So let's dive in with the Enneagram. I just want to start. So Enneagram is 9 different personalities. I want to dive in with the first one, and I want us to give a job occupation to each different personality because it helps fill in how people can look at this different personality trait. So starting with...
So there's 1 through 9.
1 through 9.
Okay, starting with 1.
Starting with the 1.
And this is kind of scary because people I know watch this. And I tend to say things like, you're such a 6. And when I say you're such a 6, I say it with so much love because it's so cute to me to see the strengths and weaknesses of each number. You say to me all the time, you said it to me right before we started because I was beatboxing in this mic, and you said, oh, my 3. And it's because you have a more compassion and more grace, and you just give that person so much more space to be who they are because well, that's part of their hardwiring. So now some of the people that I know that I say, oh my gosh, you're such a 9, if they watch this or when they watch this, they'll understand it's more of a term of endearment than anything else. So we'll start with 1.
Okay.
Number 1.
So number one is called the reformer. And when they call it the reformer, I want to add a job occupation to that so we can help identify it better, where we don't even have to use so many words by using this job title. The quality control inspector. That's what the 1 is like, because the 1 is a perfectionist. They do have perfectionist type of tendencies, and they do make the world a better place because they go around, they pay attention to details, and they see something that's wrong, whether it's with somebody or a situation, and they constantly go into improving it. Now, they may do it in a way, whether it's, I'm not going to say combative, but it's more, I see 1 or 2 type of 1s. I see one is a person going in kind of complaining or saying this should have been done this way. And then I see another type of 1 where if they're not like so much in a power position where they're just like, I'm just going to just fix it because these people don't know how it is. And it kind of fix things in silence. And after they finish fixing stuff, they have this self-righteousness going on in their inner conscience saying that, well, I fixed all this stuff around here. And so there's some good things about the 1, and that is they do constantly improve things, improve others. And then you have the shadow side, where the shadow side is a bit more angry, but 1s do not like to admit their anger. They think anger is a sin. Anger is bad, so the anger simmers until somebody does, left something out or did something wrong, and you'll just hear 1, oh, gotta do this again. They sigh. That's how you know you can see that anger. And so...
And they get frustrated. So if something's not, and I'm just thinking about people that I know. Someone on your row. So I'm definitely have like no one in me at all. And people will start to understand why when I talk about mine. But if
got a little bit traditional.
I have a little bit of one because I'm Indian.
Yeah.
That's it. But so we need ones because the thing that came to mind when you were talking is crosswalk people. What are they called? Crosswalkers?
Cross guards.
Cross guards. We need cross guards. And I remember when the boys were little and I used to drop them off at school, and the cross guard, you know, he was so cute. He was like this old man, and he would have every area stop. I'm like, bro, we're all stopped. And then he would cross the kids. He'd be done. It's time to drive. There's no one else crossing. But he had his routine of how it's supposed to be because it's the rules. And I remember as a 3, and we'll get into that in a second, I'm in a rush. I gotta go. I got things to do. Come on. There's no kids. But if he wasn't there crossing the kids, who would be? Right? And how many kids would get injured? So I appreciate the fact that there's ones. And when I think about the people I work with or people I go to the gym, you know, this morning I was lifting, throwing weights down, grabbing more weights. The ones are putting the weights back.
Yep.
And when you're at the gym and you're trying to, you know, work and trying to put in work, you don't want to have to look for where's the 20s, where's the 10s. No, they're there because the ones put them back.
Yep.
So I appreciate the ones.
Yep. Yes. The ones do care about the rules. They care about other people following the rules. They follow the rules themselves, but they really care about other people following the rules. Short story that I had run in with a one because a lot of police officers are ones, especially the motorcycle cops that have like zero tolerance.
Yeah.
A cop pulled up behind me, put on his lights, pulled me over, and I was like, I wasn't speeding, so why did he pull me over? He got out the car and he said, do you know why I stopped you? I was like, actually, I don't.
Because I'm black? No, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So,
kind of.
Well, I don't have that racist tendency in me, so I don't assume that it was because I was black. I was like, well, why did he stop
I
me?
would assume that.
So he said, because part of your license plate light is out.
Oh.
You have 2 license plate lights.
Oh, my God.
The right side of your license plate is out. And I was like, oh, officer, thanks for letting me know. I'll get that fixed. He's like, well, hold on. I got to make sure I write you a ticket. And he proceeded to write me a fix-it ticket to make sure I pay the money to the system and take my fix-it ticket down to the police station or what have you to make sure it gets fixed. If it was another type of personality, they would have just said, oh, yeah, go ahead, get that fixed. Or a police officer that wasn't a 1 probably wouldn't even waste his time. But a 1 is going to make sure the rules, people follow the rules. And so if you have that tendency to make sure people follow the rules, then you're a 1 personality. Now let's move on to the 2. You want to dive into 2? You got anything to say about the 2?
My mama is a 2. My mama is a 2, and 2s are all about helping people, and they're just so generous and so giving. Anyone that knows my mom, even if you're a stranger and ran across her once, you got something she gave you. For the simple fact that she wanted to help you, and she wanted, even if that was just by brightening your day. I had somebody text me the other day, and she doesn't know my mom that well, but she's met her, and she said, I'm in an Indian restaurant, and I was just thinking about the time where I ran into your mom at the store, and I was admiring a purse. And all of a sudden, next thing I know, she bought me the purse and handed it to me and said, here you go. And that actually being a helper's love language is serving. And so my mom's love language is definitely acts of service and definitely gifts. So she bought her a gift, and just as much as that person was filled with joy and happiness and it made their day, it did that and more for my mom. So my mom is constantly giving, giving, giving.
Yes. So we call the 2, they call it the helper in the enneagram. How we want to help people relate to the 2 is we call them the nurse.
Oh, yes.
The nurse is constantly giving. The nurse is constantly coming in the room, checking on people. Someone can be mad at the nurse. Oh, no, you didn't give me the right, drugs or something like that. And the nurse is still having a sweet attitude, trying to make sure that this person is taken care of. So
so what if that's a nurse? That's a 2. There are some people, because I used to staff nurses in the late 90s. There are some people that became nurses because, like in the Indian culture, it's big to be a nurse for females, just because it's expected. So that's kind of like the variation where somebody's not really a 2, but they became a nurse because of the money and because of what went to school, got your degree, and now you're in a an admired profession. And the difference when there's a nurse who's not a 2, because they don't give the same level of love and care and service. So I just have to throw that in there because I've seen that.
Yes. And so this by no means mean that all nurses are of this personality type, but if we wanted to kind of get some of the attributes of a 2, we would look at nurses.
Yeah. And
a lot of 2s are nurses because they would go hours on end, 10, 12 hours a day, helping people. So that's the same way that this person looks in a relationship. The nurse looks like that at the hospital.
Right.
But the 2 looks like that at their personal relationships. Yeah. They look like that whether it's mother-son relationship or whether it's a husband-wife relationship. That's how the 2 treats the people that are in those intimate relationships.
Yep.
Now, do they treat all people like that? No, but they look for the people that either need that type of help. So one of the good things about the 2s is they know your need before you even know it. So a lot of people, you may not know your own need. A 2, well, that's one of their good traits, their good instincts. They can sniff out your need.
Yeah. I work with, she thinks she's a 2, so I'm going to have her take the test. But so I have 2 sisters that work together, and one of them works in my office space, and then the other one works in another office space. So the other day, the one who's not the 2 works outside of the office. So my coworker was eating, the sister was eating, and I said, that looks like meal prep. I said, I know you're not meal prepping. Just because I know her, she's not going to meal prep. I said, your sister made that for you, didn't she? She goes, yeah. And the sister automatically thinks she's a 2 just based on how I've explained it. But it was funny because she's such a caretaker. Right? Oh, my sister at work, she needs to have her meals. So not only does she meal prep her own meals, but she meal prepped her sister's meals and stacked them all up in the refrigerator. That's a 2. Yes. A 2 is going to take care of, people in her life.
Yep, the relationships in their lives.
So that's a 2.
So to every personality, you have the double-edged sword. Sort of the shadow side of the 2 is they will take care of people way more than they take care of themselves.
Yes.
So a 2, life can be falling apart. Their bodies can be falling apart.
Yeah.
Their minds can be falling apart, but they still find the strength to help somebody else. Right. So a 2.
So self-care isn't usually, if they're not an evolved 2, if they're not a healthy 2, then they're not going to take care of themselves. And ultimately, there's going to be consequences for that. Whether it's in, sensing bitterness or whether they start to get sick or whatever the case may be. But that's more of an unevolved 2. That's somebody who doesn't even realize. That's why it's so important to know what you are. So that way you can work towards the opposite tendencies.
All right, let's move on to the 3.
Yes, let's move on to the 3.
The 3 is your personality. And I will let you dive into it. One of the things they call the 3, the performer, the achiever. You call the 3 the overachiever.
That's right.
And so the 3 is we need 3s because that's how stuff get done. They say America is the land of the 3s because everybody.
I never heard that.
Yes, because everybody's working hard to try to climb the ladder and get somewhere in life. And so being a 3, how do you describe that personality? You can give us the inside out.
Okay, I'm going to give you the shadow side first because that's easier because I'm always trying to figure out how to beat the shadow side. So the shadow side of a 3 is the inner critic. So the 3 has a very loud and very persistent inner critic. Mm-hmm. And my inner critic doesn't go to sleep. My inner critic is a morning person, a nocturnal person. My inner critic has a name.
Hillary.
That's right.
Yep.
So her name is Hillary, and Hillary loves to tell me that what I'm doing is not good enough.
Yeah.
And so whether it's my fitness, whether it's, working and getting the job done, not going home no matter how late it is, it doesn't matter. Whether it's the way I raised my kids, traveling for soccer, getting up at 4 a.m. on the weekends because I have to make sure that, everything I do to the nines. Right? So the reason there's a shadow side to that is because at what cost? And the number one cost that I've realized that I pay being a 3 is losing present moment awareness. Because when you're a 3, you've got a checklist this long and you
don't celebrate your victories.
You don't. So it's check, go, check, go, check, go. And so when do you stop and celebrate? When do you acknowledge? That can remove gratitude. That can remove, the special moments. There's so many things that you miss. So that's the shadow side. The good side is my 3, when it comes to health, I cook clean. I make sure that our meals are aligned with our health goals, our fitness goals. I'm very driven. I get up. I probably overly work out. You'll tell me, isn't it a rest day? And I'll say, yes, it's a rest day. So I'm going to the gym to do an active rest day. And I'll go and I'll do cardio because I'm not lifting because it's a rest day. So, and that's fine because I know how to listen to my body. I think I'm a little bit of an evolved or a healthy 3 in the sense that I work really hard on the opposite tendencies. So I buy books on how to be present. And then I practice those things. One of the things I've been practicing lately is breath work. So when I feel myself getting worked up and I can feel like my list isn't checked, I'll pause completely. I put a water fountain in my office, and then I put some pictures that say inhale, exhale. And I can hear the water, so it's a conscious reminder. Breathe, slow down. You're missing all the good stuff. The good stuff isn't checking off the list. So it goes both ways, right? So I love where I'm at in my career. I love where I'm at with my health and fitness. I love that I'm 45 going on 12. Like, I love that. But then on the flip side, there's probably people who don't benefit from the shadow side because they want to enjoy me right now, right? I'm going to give you a quick example. My best friend showed up today, and I'm halfway through my list, and I'm like, I'm at the car wash, and both of my sons texted me, and both the boys text and say, Sophia's here. I'm like, oh God, wait, I still have this and this and this and this. Well, what do I do? And I'm like, tell her I'm running errands. And I'm like, what? So because I work hard on, being present, I text back immediately and said, tell her I'm at the car wash, I'm almost done, and I'll be home right after. We sat around, we played with the boys, we enjoyed each other, and nothing on my list would have been better than that. So that's just giving you an example of when you work on yourself and do the work, it doesn't mean that those characteristics have to stick. It just means it's giving you a target to work towards.
There you go. Good description of the 3, Brewski.
Thank you. Da, 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 performer.
So our I know they call the 3s the performers. Our job title for the 3, I call it the motivational speaker, and you call it, what is it? The
social media
influencer. That's my new word to learn. So I call him the motivational speaker, and so as you can see how 3s help people, when you look at motivational speakers, the Tony Robinsons, the ETs, how they help people reach their goals. 3s, one of the things that they're really good at is reading energy, reading a room full of people, reading their energy, and able to speak to people according to what they feel that they need. So 3s,
they're intuitive.
Normally they normally have very good intuition. Yep. So anything else about the 3?
I really like my microphone.
3s love the stage. They love the mic. Most of the people you see on social media are threes.
Yeah.
Threes love the post.
So there's so many people on social media, right? Like the world is on social media. But I think from the threes, what you see is more the positive vibe. You see people like, I'll be at the gym or I'll be somewhere and I will completely stop what I'm doing because I was inspired and I have this thought and I want to share it. And I don't want to share it because, well, for no other reason except for the fact that maybe somebody else needed to hear it, right? So it's indwelt. It's natural. It's not something that we've worked on or developed. It's natural. So we just constantly, well, I can't speak for everything, but I want to pay it forward, pay it forward, pay it forward. How can I serve? How can I give? And I've had so many struggles in my life that I want to take every tip and tool and trick and whatever the case may be and teach someone else how to do it.
There we go.
Because I just feel like that's the right thing to do.
That's good. And the threes are really good with helping people, being an example of showing people how to reach their goals and accomplish their goals and to keep that momentum going in their life. All right, you ready to switch to fours?
Dun, da, da, da.
Your wing is a 4, so you're a 3-4, the 4 wing. So the 4 is called the individualist, and it's probably the most unique out of all of the personality types. The 4 wants to be unique. That's what they strive for, is to be unique, separate in life. And when it comes to job descriptions, since the 4 is so unique, it's so many different job descriptions that I would see a 4 do, and they would do well. Just to name a few, 1 is the tattoo artist.
Yeah.
2 is the hairdresser.
Yeah.
And 3 is the yoga teacher.
Yeah.
When you see these type of people, as you notice, they're all distinctly different, but they all have this thing, this depth in life. They're the deepest feeling people that you would ever meet. Their feelings are so deep. A lot of people don't understand how deep they go, but they can help us take our feelings, really experience our emotions, and how to go deep in our feelings. And so, what's your input on the 3s? I mean, the 4s.
So when you said my wing is a 4, so people will probably like, what's a wing? She has wings? Yeah, wings. So the wing is just there's a primary and secondary. Yeah. So my primary is a 3, my wing, my secondary is a 4. But lately, my 4 has been competing with my 3. And I think that's from all the work I'm doing on being present. And so the 4s are usually HSPs, so highly sensitive people. And we are deeply feeling. We're very emotional. I know we're not going to talk about quadrants today, but I am going to say that the 4 thinks from the heart.
Mm-hmm. They do.
Solely from the heart. You tease and you call me a tree hugger. And I'm like, the tree gives me life. But all joking aside, it does. Yeah. There's a tree down the street, and I have this weird thing. And this morning I woke up and I was feeling some type of way. I didn't know what it was. I knew it was blocked energy, but I didn't know what was blocking my energy. But I know that if I don't get up and move, that I'm going to get stuck in a rut, and it's going to be a downward spiral. So just as fast as a 3 can go up, a 3 can go down. And so doing all this work on myself, and I posted on it, my 4 was the feelings were overwhelming. So I'm like, do I go visit the tree? It's living. It gives me life. I'm thankful for why, God put trees on the earth for a reason. He put plants. He put all these living things. I know you want to laugh. You can laugh because I know you don't get it. But one thing that happened today, and I know this is my 4 because I'm deeply feeling, and if I were to say it out loud, people would think I'm weird, but I'm about to say it out loud. So I was at the gym and it's packed. And I'm on a machine and I'm in my zone. And usually at the gym I have on a hat, my big headphones. I don't want no one to talk to me. If I'm with you, I dance at the gym to music because I'm free. But if I'm not with you, I change because I don't want no attention because I'm by myself and I don't want anyone to talk to me. And so today, out of nowhere, and it was so deep and so dope. This man walks by, and he must have been in his late 60s, 70s, something like that. And he had my dad's eyes. And I told Sophia this today when she came over. He had my dad's eyes. I kid you not. I dropped everything. I stopped working out, and I looked at him, and he looked at me. And A 3 wouldn't have noticed it because we're like, workout check, keep going, keep going. But my 4, I woke up in my high 4 today. And so we locked eyes, and it was like, I told Sophia, it was like nobody else was in the gym. So here's my 4 coming out, right? Like my emotions, and I'm connecting. I'm like, there's something to this, right? I'm like, it's like a God wink. It's like feeling, oh my God, my dad's proud of me right now. A 3 would never pause long enough to even recognize that. And then so I grabbed my towel, turned around, picked up my bag. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot something. As soon as he walked away, I said out loud, don't leave. Who does that? I did that. I didn't say it to him, I just said it out loud because I was overwhelmed by the connection and his eyes. My dad had unique eyes. And so I picked up my bag, I turned around, he was gone. Gone. Nowhere in the gym. Where did he go that fast? And so I was telling Sophia about it. And that's just, I don't even know how to put it so it doesn't sound woo-woo. But 4s, we are very woo-woo, but we know that there's like a force behind that. And, their 4s are also very intuitive, and 4s are also very, very high empaths. So that's the other thing I want to say is, I can meet a stranger on the street and they can tell me a story. And as soon as they're halfway through the tears, I don't need to know you. I don't need to know anything about you. I can actually physically feel your pain. At work, they joke around when something happens. They'll say, don't tell Vanessa, right? Because I'm going to get involved. I'm going to try to fix it. I'm going to do what I can. I'll drop everything for a human because we care so much about people. So that's when my 4 will override. Also, I like to be unique, right? And I've got like 10 tattoos. I work in corporate America, but I like to do things differently. I don't want to blend in. I want to stand out. So it is interesting to be a 3-4 because, you're constantly, like you said, climbing the ladder, whether it's fitness or career. But then the 4 comes in and wants to add more fuel to the fire, and it's going to be in a unique way. I'm going to do it in a way that you're not doing it. And so, and the weakness or the shadow or whatever you want, the challenges of being a 4, it's the strength and it's the challenges being an empath. Because being an empath will take a lot out of you. It'll take a lot out of your bank account.
Yep, you do a lot of giving, that's right.
I do a lot of giving, and it's because if I'm not serving, I'm not winning. I'm not. And sometimes I will feel things for another human, and they're not even feeling it themselves.
Yep.
Right? Whether it's even the dog, like our dog. He was in a creek, and we were already on the other side of the fence, and you were walking away, and I'm like, wait, what about Kodak? And you're like, he knows how to get to us. And I'm like, I don't want his heart to think that we would walk away from him. And my eyes are watering. I'm like, he needs to know that we're here for you. One of the challenges of before is we have issues with abandonment. And so I never want anyone to feel abandoned. I will make sure you don't feel abandoned. So the strength and the weaknesses can almost look one and the same. It's just how it's taking a step back and really figuring out, is this the truth or is it not?
The 4s are deep. Whew. Yeah, that's
we deep. I will watch Ellen DeGeneres clips and bawl my eyes out. And I used to try to hide it from you, remember? Mm-hmm. I would look away or do things, but now I've embraced it. And I don't think it's dope to cry because I can feel so deeply. And feeling deeply is, I think that's a superpower because you can feel something before it actually even happens, right? And then in that feeling, you build momentum off something that hasn't even happened, that excitement or whatever, and then you manifest it. And all of a sudden, what you were excited about is actualizing in your life. So I think it's a superpower.
Yes, the 4s are deep. Some of the things that I notice about 4s is they do like to romanticize life.
Yeah.
Whether it's the tree or something, it is because
the
they
ocean,
feel
the tree, the plant, nature, just Mother Nature.
And one of the things I noticed you experience just a little bit deeper, and that's because I feel that you evolved from other 4s, is because a lot of 4s do have missing tile syndrome, and I know that you...
Missing what?
Missing tile.
Missing tile syndrome. Okay, I don't even know.
Yeah, so you'll look at a bathroom, all of these nice tiles, and you'll notice one little missing tile, that little missing tile is what I'm going to focus on, in versus everything else is going right. And so that's one of the struggles of a 4.
I have that.
Is that,
let's be real, I have that.
Everything else can be going right. It is just this little speck on the wall. And
well, the last thing I'm going to say is I keep my juror badge from a murder trial, because when I was a juror on that murder trial, like, I was supposed to be there. That was so ordained by the universe, by God. I was supposed to be there because the pain I felt as an empath. And I told the judge, remember, I can't be on this jury because I'm an empath. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, everybody has empathy. I'm like, no. Like, I am, like, it's going to drain, it's going to take my life. And so, and that is what happened. And every witness was homeless. And the lady that was accused of murder, who ended up being charged for murder, the anxiety I felt the day she was going to get sentenced, and then the day we were deliberating as a jury, and they brought in the clothes, the shoes of the person that was murdered. That pain was so overwhelming. So it really showed me another side of life, how people live. Like the witnesses, they were all homeless and hungry, and, you know, they felt invisible. And, you know, I just wanted to go grab them all and take them to eat and love on them. So because I have the missing tile syndrome, which I never even heard of, that's a good analogy. I keep that badge because it brings me back to center. Like, girlfriend, like, I check myself. Like, you've got a great life, a great family, your health, I'm happy. And so when something goes wrong, that juror badge is sitting right on my dresser to bring me back. But that's part of the things that I do to evolve from, you know, the shadow side of my temperament.
There we go.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
I have that.
Well, let's bounce off to the 5s.
Oh, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, the 5 is my type of personality. That's actually my personality. The 5s, they are the thinkers. They're the people that they call the observers, the investigators, because they're always in their head and they're always paying attention to details and thinking. And yeah.
Always.
And so sometimes you may see 5s are slower to respond. That's because they have to think about and formulate a response where they feel is going to come from the wisdom, all the wisdom that they encapsulated all the years that they've kind of lived. So that's one of the things about 5s. You may see them a little bit slow to respond, to speak, and one of the reasons why is because they're trying to think of all the wisdom that they gained all the years in order to respond. So other things about 5s, the profession is called, which I say is the professor, because 5s love to gain knowledge. If you see somebody, I love to go to school, I love to like read books, or
they have a massive book collection. They have massive book collections and encyclopedias and maps. Like, you bought me a map, and I was like, and you made me study it. And I'm like, I don't want to study it. World. I'm like, I have a list to go conquer, and I need to go hug my tree. Like, why would I go look at the map?
Everybody should know how the world looks.
You know history, you know the wars and who they were and what they were on about. And I'm like, wow, where do you store all of this? Yeah. So
information for the 5 is fun, for them to gain information about all different topics of life. The sort of shadow side to all that information about a 5 is they feel that they're not equipped for the world unless they have this information. So I look at myself when I was younger, in the 20s and what have you. I never felt like I was equipped to either go out where, like, we went over on Markel's birthday to a boat of people where we're dancing. I never felt equipped in my younger years, whether it's to go out dancing or whether it's to go out and do anything, because one of the 5's biggest fears is, I'm not ready. I need all this knowledge to be ready. I need to. I don't know enough to be here, because one of the scariest things for a 5 is to be caught incompetent. So that's part of the reason why they are taking in all this knowledge, is because they want to be ready when it comes to the situation. Now, as I evolved, one of the things I noticed is that you just do it.
You just do it. You just fake it till you become it. Not fake it till you make it, but fake it till you become it.
Yes, and actually that's one of the things that I learned from you is how you can go into situations you don't really have to know much. And you can just, you're a type of personality, the personalities that go in not having to know much, and you'll just
it'll come to you.
Yeah, just take on the situation as is. And so as I evolved my 5, I learned how to just take situations as is and not have to be prepared for them and all that other stuff. So when you see me, normally a 5 is an introvert personality. They are the introverts of most.
And I think everyone would be shocked to hear you say you're an introvert. So I'm having to explain over and over again to people that you're an introvert. Yet you're the one in the gym that I know you're there, because you could be clear on the other side. I barely open the door and I hear, "Rah!" I'm like, he's here. Yet you're an introvert, which is the truth.
Yes, which is the truth. And so one of the little things that I'll do a little quick synopsis of what makes a person an introvert versus an extrovert. And it's funny because this reminds me of our relationship as we were best friends, when we were best friends.
Oh, okay.
So a person that's an introvert versus an extrovert get energy from talking to people.
Yeah.
An introvert is depleted of energy. They lose energy from talking to people.
Right.
So it's not that they don't know how to talk to people or they don't like talking to people. It's just that they're losing energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so
you're afraid that your energy's going to run out.
Yeah, that I'm just going to be, after I finish talking to you, I'm going to be done. And so you being an extrovert, you get energy. It's like you have an energy recycling factory as you're talking to people. I remember when we were just best friends and we'll talk for probably like 4 hours straight.
Yeah.
And then after the 4 hours, you would say, okay, good talking to you.
Yeah.
Good night. And then you would go talk to your boyfriend on the phone for at least another 2 hours plus.
But that was a different person.
So that's one of the big difference between an introvert and an extrovert, because after that conversation, I was like, whew, I can't do nothing else in life. And an introvert gets their energy, they restore their energy from being alone, going either reading a book, watching a favorite TV show, playing their little game or something like that, or getting on the computer, doing some type of isolated, fun little activity. That's how they restore their energy, but they lose energy from being around people. So when it comes to my 5, a lot of people may see me demonstrative in certain situations, whether at the gym or
definitely
or in other places, especially
on the boat that we just went on, the party cruise.
Yep.
You were the life of that entire boat. You were you had people clapping as you were swinging. And I'm not making this up. You were swinging from the pole.
Swinging from the roof. That's how I do it when I get on boats. And
ripped your shirt and people would never believe you were an introvert. But you were done. After that, you were done.
Yep.
And I could tell when we went to dinner, you were done.
Yep.
Yeah.
After I was after doing that, going out, enjoying myself, my 5, I've learned how to assimilate to the environment and kind of just make the moment what it is. If people are supposed to be dancing on this boat, I'm not going to let my introvert be a wallflower. I did that in the past. And so now that I've evolved, I'm saying, well, shoot, everybody else dancing. This is how I'm a make the moment. And so that's one of the things that I've did to help my personality evolve, is I've learned how to make the moment if I have to step out of my box. Shadow sides of the 5 is people can perceive them to be arrogant because they're a know-it-all. Just because they've been thinking about this.
Stop shaking.
Because they've been thinking about a certain subject when somebody else brings it up. Just because so that's one of the areas where I have to evolve as well. Instead of saying, oh, I know, I let people get out what they need to say. And they may teach me one little aspect of that situation or that category, and I'll just take that and I'll say, hey, I just learned something new. So those are some shadow sides of the 5. They can another shadow side or negative tendency is they can withdraw and go into isolation. So
and appear emotionless.
Oh yeah, that's another one.
And appear to be stoic. And make your 4 feel like you're being abandoned emotionally, which is the biggest problem we had in our first year of marriage.
Yes.
And why?
Yes.
I literally would have filed the divorce, but I didn't know where the court was in Oakland. Because I felt like, well, if he doesn't care, why am I even with him? And so we talked in the first podcast about all the fake stories that I believed because my mind created them to protect me. But now that we've explained the 4 in me with abandonment issues, and now we're talking about your 5 that appears to be stoic and not care. So I'll divorce him. I even called you one day. I know exactly where I was standing in downtown Oakland. I could tell you exactly how my hand was placed. And I said, I'm just going to file for divorce because you just didn't care. And you said, okay. And I'm like, I hate you. And that's why this is so important, because if I would have known about the Enneagram, if I would have known, oh, he's a 5, he does care. Like now, if something happens, I'm like, we hit a bump in the road. He's processing. He needs to be alone. He needs to think through everything that happened. Instead of, you just don't care, you don't show any emotion. And when you detach, it's because you're overwhelmed. So you're doing what you need to do. That's the difference between understanding one another and not understanding one another.
Yes, that is.
And so you're not, and one of the things I feel really bad about, and I didn't even tell you, so now I get to tell you in front of our 1 million viewers. The other day you asked me, I was listening to a 5, some discussions with a 5, and you said on YouTube, and you said, did you learn anything about a 5? And I said, no, but really I did, but I didn't want to say it because I already had my makeup on. I didn't want to cry. And that was, you never tell a 5 that they don't feel. You're not supposed to do that. And Thank you for listening to today's episode of Day Drinking with Alfonso and Vanessa. So what's your type? Today we covered Enneagram numbers 1 through 5. Don't worry, if you do not feel like you align or resonate with any of these numbers, we have yet to cover numbers 6 through 9. Please stay tuned and look out for announcements when we release episode number 3.